Welcome back to the Jungle Fever podcast. I beat the Sergeant Aiden Crowley is here alongside me as always. And well, just when you feel like you have a semblance of hope and a plan, they just chuck it down the drain. Bengals lose a heartbreaker in the snow in Buffalo, 39 to 34. A couple of big mistakes doomed the Bengals late in this game. The defense once again struggled. Some key mistakes on that side of the ball as well. And just a game that, I think a lot of people in that building will, I think, have the notion that was thrown away a little bit. It was there for them. They led I believe, about three-quarters of this game, the Bengals led. They started phenomenally, obviously scored on their opening three drives. And, I thought Joe Burrow, despite which we'll talk about the mistakes, I thought Joe Burrow played a great game. Did, I think, everything that he was asked to do, had some truly elite throws, some of the stuff we're used to seeing from him. Just some gamer plays. Obviously, people are going to remember the mistakes, but I thought Joe Burrow had a fantastic game. The offense was great. But again, the defense rears its ugly head and the offense makes two key mistakes that end up proving to be the downfall. But we have breaking news that we have to discuss here. I'm kind of glad we recorded a little later. Usually we record around lunchtime. Today we're recording in, the mid-afternoon, and it's probably a good thing for us newsworthy individuals as a guy we've discussed plenty on this podcast is no longer a Cincinnati Bengal. Jermaine Burton has officially been cut. Aiden, I'll just let you have a snap reaction to that. It definitely feels like something that's been coming.
Yeah, I'm to be honest with you, I'm so done with it. I'm glad that it's finally over. I mean, this was a circus. The fact that he has survived in that building for this long is beyond me. When
Agreed.
you consider what happened last year and then the apparent heel turn he did this off season to just throw it all away again this season. And the number one thing that pisses me off the most in sports, I think, is when you have people who are obviously talented and incredibly just gifted naturally who don't want to work hard and don't realize that talent.
Hmm.
That just there's nothing that irks me more. Because when growing up when I was playing sports, I wasn't that guy. I was the guy who was trying to outthink people, to try to be smarter, trying to be in the right spots. You know what I mean? That's how I made my hay when I played. And for
Don't meet Mr. Crowley in the A gap. That's all I'll say.
and and it was always so frustrating to look over and see people who were probably better than me, like talent wise, obviously better than me, taller, faster, whatever. And they just don't care as much. Oh my gosh, it irks me to no end. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with Jermaine Burton. All the talent in the world, never realized, just completely threw it away. And I've said it multiple times and I'll say it again. If he can't figure it out in this locker room, that has been nothing short. I mean, given everything that happens on the field is just kind of a train wreck, but it seems like in the walls or every bit of a team. And you think about those leaders with Burrow, with Chase, with Higgins. If you can't figure it out with those guys, I don't know where you're going to figure it out.
You look at the locker room in Philadelphia, right, where they are having their down and up season, and you hear AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley coming out, and then Jalen Hurts, and they're having all these weird conversations that are pointing fingers back and forth, and then you got Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo, and you can say whatever you want to say about whatever's going on with Philly's offense, but there's a lot of pointing fingers, right? It is one of, I think, and we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. It's one of the biggest feathers in Zach Taylor's cap as a coach is how well and how gelled this locker room is. It truly is a family, right? Even though we're not in there, obviously, but there really is. You get that vibe, and even on a team that isn't, I don't think, all that good this year, you still see that. You still see that togetherness, but going back to Jermaine Burton, like Aiden said, every potential opportunity in the world, right? He's got a great support system. You've got guys with, in the offseason, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins talk about, we were putting the work in with him in the offseason. We want to try and build him up. We want to try and make sure that his head's in the right spot. And, I was Aiden brought up a great analogy, and I was going to say something similar along the lines, right? Because my dad, I remember when I was in middle school, right? I was a soccer player back in the day, and when I was in middle school playing on I think my seventh or eighth grade soccer team, my dad put a piece of paper on my wall that said, "Talent without hard work is talent wasted." Well, unfortunately, that quote's been realized with Jermaine Burton. This is a guy, like Aiden said, all of the talent in the world, could be a very high level NFL wide receiver if his head were screwed on straight, but clearly it's not, right? And he's been given chance after chance after chance after chance, right? He has been given
Way too many.
umpteen passes, right? He has. I really do think that this. And again, I'm not. I really don't. I think the Bengals handled in terms of the leash. I think that's the argument you can make. But I think the Bengals handled this about as well as they could have in terms of trying with him, right? Trying to give him the support, trying to make sure that he's in the right frame of mind. But now, right, like again, there was an opportunity for him to play big time this year. T. Higgins been in and out. T. Higgins, by the way, back in concussion protocol. We're going to talk about that because that was a whole other thing yesterday. Um, but again, with T having the concussion 2 weeks ago against New England, last week against Baltimore, could have been a huge opportunity. You think about an undrafted free agent rookie in Mitchell Tinsley, who's made some great plays this year, right? Those are snaps, not nothing against Mitchell Tinsley, who's been great this year. Those are snaps, those are passes that Jermaine Burton could potentially be taking. You think about the biggest success of the Bengals back in the day with the offense, right? You had Jamar, you had T, both those guys, but Tyler Boyd was such a key part of what the Bengals were trying to do because he was that third option, right? You need that, right? Because teams love to take away the big two, you need that key third option. And obviously, the Bengals have tried. Yosevas has had his ups and downs. Gesicki played a great game yesterday, his best game of the season. Trying to get the tight ends involved, but they really haven't found that. And I think Jermaine Burton was the okay. This is our third guy. This is the guy we want to take over that role. And at the time, it looked great, but there's only so much you could do. And I think the last thing I'll say about it is I hope that Jermaine gets the right people around him and he gets in terms of his mental health and his just human nature. I'm not even talking about Jermaine Burton, the player, anymore. I'm talking about Jermaine Burton, the person. I just hope he gets, again, the people and the support around him that, I mean, I think he needs at this point because clearly there are off the field factors here that are inhibiting his ability to perform on the field. And again, he now leads his Bengals, I believe, 2 catches to his name in the NFL. So, yeah, it's pretty sad, honestly, I think at the end of the
Happy to be
day.
done. Happy to be
Yeah.
done with
I
it.
think it's something that's in the past, but again, it's just a waste. It's a waste of a third round pick. It's a waste of, and again, I don't even, you had Zach Taylor slam the table when they made that pick, and I think that they thought that they had a first round talent when they made the pick. I think they did. It's just, you mentioned this a couple weeks ago, Nick Saban, right after that pick was made on, was it whatever they do that simulcast on for the draft. His comments were telling, right? Jermaine Burton, all the talent in the world, but Nick Saban is maybe the one coach in the world that was able to kind of
Even then, it was a
compartmentalize him,
challenge.
I
Even in
guess.
college, it was a it was a
Yeah.
challenge.
And again, you think about it, he was at Georgia, transferred to Alabama. He had issues with discipline at both schools. So it sucks for the person, but I think again, like you, I'm just done. I'm just moving on. So let's talk about the game a little bit more now. 39-34. Obviously, the Bengals lose. A tough one in Buffalo. The big takeaways from this game. Number one, Joe Burrow, man. People are gonna talk about the pick, the first pick. Honestly, I'm just gonna put this out of the way. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. Just an unbelievable play by Christian Benford. Just that's really all it is, in my opinion. Joe Burrow makes a check at the line. If that ball gets over his head, Jamar's got probably 15 plus. Um, but it's just a athletic play and a phenomenal play. I don't really know what else to say about that pick. The second
Burrow's
one,
got to get that ball higher.
yeah,
He just
yeah,
has to. So yes, it is a great play, but at the same time, I mean, Burrow gifted that one to him.
yeah. I mean, it's just again a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and then the second one, you throw a ball and it gets tip, bad deflection, right? Goes right into a Bills player's arms. Again, not a lot you can really do there. So, just a couple of bad swings, but aside from that, really not a lot bad to say about the offense. This offensive line is playing at as high a level right now as any line in the NFL, and that's
One
a
sack.
crazy,
They have been charged with one sack over the past 4 games. Think about that.
unbelievable job. All five of them too. Really, it clearly. They found their five, right? We had some mixing and matching earlier in the year. Rivers came in and out, but Dalton Reisner's come in. He's made that right guard spot his own. Dylan Fairchild, seems like they slam dunked that third round pick. I know a lot of people had some doubts, some ins and outs, but I think he is kind of shut that down. He seems like cornerstone there at left guard, which is a big check mark for the Bengals if he can stay healthy and stay in that spot. Mims again just continuing to make strides. That seems like another great pick. Just a guy that I think is just a classic 10, 15-year cornerstone at right tackle. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he has all the tools to be that lockdown guy for many, many years at that spot. Orlando Brown had some downs early in the year. I think he's starting to work his way back up in terms of performance. And then Ted Karras, another guy that started the year really poorly, I think has just turned a page, completely flipped the script. So great on all those guys. They've been phenomenal. The run, even some of the runners as well. P Ryan has come in, run block, pass block pretty well as well. Same with Chase Brown. So not nothing bad to say about the O line. And then the pass catchers. Burrow spread it out a little bit. Jamar Chase didn't have his most active day. I believe only like 57 yards receiving. But the Bengals went around him, right? Because a lot of teams know that, number one's pretty good. They're going to shade guys over there. So they found T.
Bedford,
Higgins a
yeah,
lot.
Bedford's been playing really well recently for Buffalo. I think over like the
Yep.
past 4 weeks or so, he's really taken on that CB1 job and has done a really good job. And there were some question marks going into the game on if they were going to shadow Jamar or not with Bedford, just because there's not many corners in the league that can do it. And Bedford did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Jamar five
he
for
did.
44. That's a bad day in
Mhm.
Jamar's book. So
But he's still over 1,000 yards, so he becomes, I believe, the third or fourth player all time to have 1,000 yards in his first 5 seasons. There's another Bengal, AJ Green, who did that. Mike Evans did it famously. Obviously, his streak is longer than that. It'll probably end this year. But again, just one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league, in Jamar
here.
Chase. Couple other guys, again, T. Higgins. I'm gonna be honest with you here. I don't know how he played that second half. And I'm gonna be honest, it was a little risky to play him, right? You are coming off. We've seen how devastating these concussions, these head injuries can be for these players. He had a bad one against New England, right? Late going, and that's kind of how T is. Goes up for those jump balls, and you leave yourself susceptible to that head slamming back on the turf, right? Again, in Buffalo, cold, hard ground, frozen ground, right? He goes up for a jump ball. It was out of bounds, really. He wouldn't have known, but he was out of bounds. And same kind of thing, slammed his head. And then he went in, they did the check. He went back out. I think he had a drop or something. Then he went back out of the game again. Then he came back in, he slammed his head again on the turf. And at that point, I was like, man, as much as I love T and I want him to play, you have to be careful. Just because, again, we know how scary and how dangerous these head injuries can be. And if I were T, honestly, and we've seen a couple people do it, I think I'd put a guardian cap on for the rest of the year. I think I would just, there's no disadvantage to it, right? Nothing's changing. Um, you're just,
I just think about Romeo Dobbs.
yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
That's why I smiled. This is not a
Popularize it.
laughing matter, but I just thought of Romeo Dobbs and
But I think again, if I were T, I think I'd throw one on the rest of the year if
yeah.
he plays, just because again, I think it's the smart thing to do. I think you just need to no issue with T playing, but again, when you're a jump ball guy who you've already had a concussion this year, right, and you're clearly feeling the effects again, I think it's just if you're gonna play, you need to wear that just for safety. I think more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would in situations like this, I always defer to the staff. Obviously, they
Sure.
know a lot more than we ever will as fans. So if they say he's good to go, he must be good to go. And especially with head injuries, and they know his history, they know how last week went or a couple weeks ago went. Like they're going to be overly cautious with it. So I wasn't too concerned seeing him back out there. Obviously, it is scary, but he was cleared to go, and he feels comfortable enough to go, so he's going to go. It's kind of the same conversation that we had Burrow with his toe. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if the med staff clears him, if he feels comfortable doing it and he
Yep.
wants to be out there, he's going to be out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he made an unbelievable one-handed catch.
Yeah. To close the
And
game.
yep,
Yeah.
and you thought maybe that was the chance, but I thought this game, my biggest takeaway with this game, it was just indicative of everything Bengals. I don't think there was one game that's been more poetic in like summarizing the issues than this one.
Mm.
Burrow has to be perfect or you lose. He makes two mistakes and you lose. On the final play of the game, Josh Allen scrambles for 20 yards and a first down. The linebackers are nowhere to be seen. Geno Stone, who I thought had a great game, can't make a one-on-one tackle. And that's your ball game. In losses this year, the Bengals obviously with nine of them, the opposing teams have averaged 36 points a game. It is what it is. This has been a bottom five defense for the past three seasons. Nothing has changed. And this is what happens. You just waste and throw away another year because we could talk about the playoff scenarios. The Bengals will have to win out. The Steelers have to lose three. Baltimore has to lose two.
It's funny.
That's the
The
situation.
the Bengals have about an equal chance, and you're gonna laugh at this. The Bengals have about an equal chance right now between making the playoffs and a top 10 pick. They're both at about 3.8%.
Yeah, but it's like I don't even want to I don't want to entertain those because it's just like I don't want to entertain the playoff spot. This is
Me
not a playoff
neither.
team.
I'm done.
This is
You know,
not
you
a
had the
playoff
window
defense.
kind of glimmer open last week, right? And there was a path, and there still is, unbelievably. But it's just again the same issues, and it's just papering over what I think you need, which is a massive rehaul. The unfortunate problem about it is I thought there were a couple defenders that continue to flash, right? DJ Turner continues to play at a Pro Bowl level. I think Miles Murphy is by far having his best stretch as a Bengal. I mean, he has just turned that corner, and if he can keep this up, right, you feel a lot better about that room heading into next year. I think Joseph Osai needs to be a priority re-signing next offseason. The way he's played down the stretch without Trey Hendrickson has been really good, right? You're finally seeing some signs of life from the defensive front, right? Which again, without Trey, they had been lifeless, and now you're starting to see life. Osai's playing great, Murphy's playing great. Hats off to both of those guys. And again, Turner's playing solid. But with the exception, I think, of those three, and I think you mentioned it, I'll give a word to Geno Stone. Probably his best game as a Bengal yesterday. Played very well. Um, and Battle was fine, I guess. But the rest of this defense, man, like, let's just start with the unit that everybody spotlights because it's that bad. I am, how old am I? I'm 22 years old. I'll be 23 in about 3 weeks, right? I have never played a down of football in my life. I couldn't lift half of what these guys can lift. I couldn't run half as fast as half these guys can run. And yet, there is a small part of me that's convinced I could play the linebacker position better than Barrett Carter. I don't have words to describe what I'm watching when I see number 49 step on the field. Like I just he is stiffer than a board that the pirates sent prisoners off of. He cannot move. He just can't move. I don't understand how this is the guy that the Bengals put all their chips on the table for. And the worst part about it, and this is the worst part, the Bengals took two linebackers in last year's draft, all-time linebacker draft incoming in 26. All time. Like some unreal linebacker prospects coming through. Aiden Fisher at Indiana is like superstar written all over him. But will the Bengals take a linebacker when they spent 2 picks on it last year?
They have
Because
to.
again, it
They have
all goes.
to.
I would, by the way, I would. But when you go back and we talked about this all throughout the offseason, that they just zero in on guys in the process. And it'll happen. I guarantee you it'll happen again this year, right? Like, I'm pretty sure, and again, Shamar Stewart's just missing. I know he's hurt, but whatever. Um, you had, what is it? I think I'm not saying this with any sort of insider certainty or whatever, but like I think Walter Nolan was the pick. I think they wanted to
I
take
mean,
him.
yeah.
I think, you know, the problem is other teams get selections. And the Arizona Cardinals, with the 16th pick, decided they wanted Walter Nolan, who, by the way, has already
Been
accrued more
incredible.
sacks than Shamar Stewart in about 3 games. Um, so they pivot to a guy who again had 3.5 sacks in 40 or 4.5 sacks, excuse me, 4.5 sacks in 4 years of college or 3 years, whatever. It's not good. And um, now we're here, right?
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is like you get and and then in the second round, going back to this lovely linebacker position, Demetrius Knight. I just again, there's like it's not even like I can't even find a silver lining anymore.
no, no. I've been on this train for a little bit. It we've been talking about it for a while. Barrett Carter just looks overwhelmed, to put it lightly,
Hmm.
by the situation. He is not athletic enough. He is not smart enough, it seems like, to be in the right
Mm.
spots. And Demetrius Knight, in his case, looks like it doesn't come naturally for him. He just like he doesn't have a lot of football instinct, it feels like. I mean, Josh Allen on that fourth down touchdown pass fit it right by him, and his entire back is just turned. Like he's not even feeling any sort of potential pass. He's not trying to read his receiver's eyes at all. Just nothing's instinctual about either of these two
Yeah.
players. They're never in
And
the right spots. They're never
no,
where they need to be. And the worst part about it is it hasn't gotten any better throughout the
that's
year
that's the
because
most, I think, the indicative part and the
Zach
scariest
Taylor,
part.
that was their philosophy was we're going to get these two young guys in early. It might suck at the beginning, but by the time, we need to make a push, they'll be all right. They're not all right. Nothing has gotten better. They're just as bad. And guess
And
what? You
the
traded Logan
problem is,
Ojulari and you don't like you're just screwed. You're stuck here. You have to
and
go.
you converse that with what the development you're seeing on the defensive line. It's like, wow, guys are making plays all of a sudden up front. Murphy, Osai, to name a couple. But you're not seeing, like, at least Murphy and Osai, like they're going like this, right? Their trajectory is going upwards. This is the trajectory, right? Or even this. It's
Yeah.
just, but like you can be nice and say it's this, but it doesn't even think about going up, right? Like it's just you've had the same awful level. This is the floor. You've had this 84 and 83 out of 84 qualified linebackers, like the whole season, and that loses you games, right? Look at, and again, you got to tip your cap to Josh Allen. Played a great game, right? Did what he needed to do, helped them dig out some holes, made some baller throws, right? Made the big couple of big runs, the touchdown, and obviously that capper on 3rd and 15. But again, they played right into his strengths too. That was the worst part. You couldn't, you let him. I was just talking, praising the defensive line, but too often they let Allen escape the pocket, which is where he's best. Is when he's out of there, being explosive, creating things with his legs and his arms. And then they just like it's the same mistakes. It's like a
Al
record player.
Golden, this is Al Golden not having a quarterback spy on that final play that ended up being the Josh Allen run is
Hmm.
so beyond me. It makes zero sense to me. Like there was nobody within 15 yards. James
Stone tried
Jones
to
is
make
the
the tackle,
closest
what, two
guy.
yards short, I think.
Yeah, and again, and we're to pile on the linebacker conversation. tight ends just
Mm,
continue to eat
that's where I
against
was
the
going. I
Cincinnati
couldn't
Bengals.
formulate it, but that's
Dawson
where I was
Knox,
going.
6 catches, 93 yards. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, they're just exploiting them time and time again. I saw a stat that broke down the game by game numbers for opposing tight ends against the Bengals, and it is essentially going up against a triple crown receiver every single week for the Bengals
If
defense.
you're in fantasy, you're hoping that you've got
Start
like, I don't know,
everyone. Start every tight end.
you've got what? I mean, the Bengals have Baltimore next week, so
Yep.
Andrews are likely. Andrews did
Both.
nothing for me this week. Awesome. Um, Miami in a
Darren
week,
Waller's going to be
Darren
back.
Waller. So
Eaton. And guess what?
yeah.
Trey
Trey
McBride in the
McBride,
fantasy championship.
fantasy
You better hope
championship.
you better hope
Yeah.
you get to the fantasy championship
Yeah.
because Trey McBride might go for 300 yards.
Yeah.
They just don't have the horses. They don't.
The worst part about that whole linebacker problem is remember back in the olden days when the Bengals were really like the late Marvin, very early Zach, where the Bengals were just bad, right? They couldn't cover tight ends. It was a problem. Like it was a problem then when I was in high school, right? And then the Bengals defense got good. I mean, a lot of people remember Trey Flowers, which is really funny because Trey Flowers is like remembered as like he's hated in Seattle. Like people hate Trey Flowers in Seattle because of how bad he was. Then he came to Cincinnati. He's pretty fondly remembered here because he did his job, right? He came in. He was a very good cover of tight ends. He had the nickname of the Kelsey stopper, right? Because he did a great job in the second half of that AFC Championship game. I don't think Kelsey had a catch in the second half of that game. So, um, and then the defense changes a little bit. Trey Flowers leaves. They did a couple things. They did pretty well with it 22, and now that the defense has gone back down to the level it was at before this era, it's back to the same problem. And that's an indictment on a lot of different things: talent development, talent identification, um, and just a lack of preparedness. I think you know it's a problem, and you don't do anything to fix
Yep.
it.
Since the 2021 AFC Championship game that the Bengals played, I believe the Bengals as a franchise is 2 games under 500. But I'm done having the conversations about this team being some kind of like perennial contender that they try and flaunt out there time in and time out. They're not. They're not. They have not proved it for the past 3 seasons. So I'm done doing it. And yeah, we do have a very entertaining and captivating offense. We have, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. Until something substantial changes in the front office and on this defense, I'm not having these conversations. It just we're not
I'm
for
right
some
with you.
reason, some Bengals fans want to be in that conversation of the Kansas Cities, the Buffaloes, and the Baltimores. We're not there. It's a simple reality. We're not.
Well, you want to know the best part about all this? Last night, Houston, hats off, great performance. Kansas City's not going to win the AFC West for the first time in, I believe, 10 years. And they're not, like they are in like probably very serious, well, not just probably, they are in serious danger of
Yeah,
missing the
no,
post,
they're
right?
toast.
Like they need to win out and they need help.
Hmm.
And you
Lamar's not
know,
going to make it. The Steelers
and
winning that game
yeah.
is really
So
leans towards Pittsburgh's favored.
there's a real chance that Lamar, Burrow, and Mahomes are all at home. Remove Burrow for now. There's a real chance that Lamar and Mahomes are at home for the postseason, which hasn't happened maybe ever since both of those guys have been in the league, right? And the Bengals have a chance. If you get Burrow in that offense in the playoffs, who knows, right? Who knows? Give them a shot. But they can't because again, they have to, like Aiden said earlier, they have to play perfect. They have to, and again, a lot of people, I saw a lot of people pointing the finger at Joe Burrow yesterday because of that. And like, I can understand you could be a little irritated with him for making a mistake, but he doesn't like shoulder the blame for this loss. That's the big takeaway that I have. Like I thought Burrow played about as well as he could have, with the exception of those two throws. Just was dialed all over the field, made some great throws, did what 34 points wins a lot of football games. And
Yeah, yeah.
this is before you go, this is the stat. When teams score 33 or more points over the last, I think, 5 years. I don't know exactly, but the record's like 120 and like I think 18.
I have it right here. So, in the last two
Don't
seasons
ask what
of
the Bengals record with that is.
Bengals football, when scoring at least 33 points, the rest
Mhm.
of the NFL is 136, 10 and 2. The Cincinnati Bengals, when scoring at least 33 points, are 4 and 7. That's it. Like
It's
that's it.
hilarious.
End the conversation. And the Burrow pass, I mean, like that one throw swung, according to ESPN win probability, swung the game 61%. The Bills went from a 16% chance to win to a 77% chance to win after that throw.
Yeah.
But I don't blame them. As yes, did that throw pretty much cost the game? I mean, no, you probably could have made plays, but it it really hurt. But I'll say this, it's a byproduct of Burrow having to be perfect week in and week out every single time. I will say this, just curious. I know we talk Bengals all the time here, obviously, but if the Bills don't get it done this year, I don't know.
Is it Drake May's time? They got a big game next week. Big
Like
game next week.
if Josh Allen and Sean McDermott can't win the AFC this year, I think some uncomfortable conversations are
Yeah.
going to be have to
The
had.
problem is, I mean, you have to ask some questions, some serious questions about that defense. I
Yeah,
mean, I know that Joe is good. I know that, the Bengals are the Bengals. They're going to score points. But, I mean, they did good against Pittsburgh last week, to their credit. But, I mean, I think next week, right, with that New England offense and the way that they've been rolling with Drake May, that will be a big test. And I think that will probably be the best test of what Buffalo's playoff status is, I suppose. Um, so yeah, I mean the AFC's wide open. A lot of the familiar faces aren't going to be there, right? So Josh Allen, right? You want to get to the Super Bowl, you want your moment. Here's your
this is
shot.
it. This is
Go
it.
ahead, right? And if
But
they
I
and like Aiden said, I think if they can't get it done this year, if it's another playoff heartbreak, right? Again, you got to remember this is last year at Highmark Stadium too. So this is like they could go out in the perfect way, right? Again, you think about not many more pain-stricken franchises than Cincinnati, but Buffalo's right up there. 4 Super Bowl losses back to back to back to back is rough.
yeah.
I wouldn't wish that on a lot of people.
Mhm.
But again, even more recently, like they've had, heartbreak after heartbreak in the AFC playoffs, in the divisional round or the championship game. So you really got to try and find a way to get over the hump. You
Yep.
got to find a way to Santa Clara if you're Buffalo this year. So we'll see if they
Yeah,
can do it.
I find that conversation interesting because which is what is so frustrating from our perspective because we're sitting on the couch come this time and it's like you feel like if you could have gotten in the dance with Burrow, you might have had a chance, but did you really? Because the defense is that bad. So I guess looking to the playoff picture, this game against Baltimore at home, Paycor Stadium, obviously Sunday. Bengals lose that, they're officially done. If they win that, there's still a chance. It's like 3%, according to ESPN.
Yeah.
That would require Baltimore to lose. I believe they have to lose two from here on out, and then Pittsburgh has to
Schedule's
lose
tough for
three.
Baltimore.
Yes.
Um, very tough.
Um, so that's the path for Cincinnati. If you got to hope that Pittsburgh either loses to the Dolphins or the Browns in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
The Browns put up a lot of. I'll give Shador Sanders some credit. Put up
It
probably
was
had
good.
his best performance of his young
Oh,
career,
by
right?
far, but it's
Over
not even close.
350 yards, few touchdowns.
Four
Don't
touchdowns.
know.
Four.
I asked a couple Browns fans, why are you I didn't watch any of this game. Why are you taking him out on the key 2-point conversion?
I'll tell
What's
you
the
why. I'll tell you
thought
exactly why.
process there?
I'll tell you exactly why. The Browns had to lose that game
Mm,
because they're going against the Titans. They want the tiebreaker in the draft position.
the
So
tank
that's
is the
exactly
tank.
why.
The
That's
tank is the tank.
The tank
Does
commander,
Stefanski does
Kevin
Stefanski
Stefanski.
survive? Does
No,
Stefanski stick around?
no.
No. I think he will be very quickly rehired. I
I
do not
agree.
think he will be out of a job for very long.
I think Kevin
And our good
Stefanski
friend
is a
Grayson Wolf will not be very happy.
I think Kevin Stefanski is a good football coach. I
Agreed.
think his time in Cleveland is done. I think they need a new voice. I think they need a new leader. I just don't think it works. I don't think he gets along very well with the ownership group. Mainly thinking about that Shedeur Sanders pick. I think it's done. I think he'd be a great offensive mind.
Now, if
Great
Zach Taylor
athletic.
leaves Cincinnati, would he be in the mix for that job?
I wouldn't mind it. I would not mind it.
I think you have to hire a defensive head coach, but and I get it's an offensive league. And like, look, if Zach Taylor does leave, Dan Pitcher may well be
I don't think
a
prime Bill Belichick would know what to do with this Bengals defense. I'm going to be so for real. I just don't.
yeah. Well, I think look, and this will be the last thing we talk about before we wrap this up. I saw it a couple times on Twitter today. The Bengals have to hire a GM. Uh, you
What
like
Nick Saban say? What Nick Saban say? It's not going to happen, so quit
so
asking
quit
about
asking.
it. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It's never going to happen.
Like they just light picks on fire, and Jermaine is the perfect example, right? You lit a third rounder on fire. You lit. And like you go back a couple of these draft, like 2023's draft is aging relatively well. Like they got some good value. Like Andre Yosivas in the sixth round, getting the production they're getting out of a sixth round pick is not bad at all, right? But again, really, when you look at the picks, it's just the defensive side of the ball. They've just whiffed way too many times on defensive picks. I'll give them some credit because they made some good offensive selections, especially recently with some of the linemen that they're seeing development with. Obviously they.
I think Jermaine Burton is the only offensive weapon in the Zach Taylor era that has missed.
Mhm.
I mean, Chris Evans didn't really pan out, but he was a sixth round pick.
But to that
Like
point, Chase Brown was a fifth round pick, and he's
name
been
one
great. Yeah.
name one offensive weapon in the Zach Taylor era that has missed
Again,
besides Burton.
I'm going to be honest with you. If Zach Taylor were fired, I don't think he would be out of a job very long either. I
I
think
don't
he
think he'd
would
be a
get.
head coach anywhere, but he would be
No,
in the building somewhere.
I
Absolutely.
imagine I would not be surprised if he ends up back in LA with his buddy, with his old pal McVay. I would not be surprised.
That's a
So,
scary sight, bro. They're running Puka Nakua like out of the B gap on a crosser
yeah.
sometimes. It's unreal the
And
stuff that
he and he had what the cool 150 yards and two touchdowns or something like that yesterday as the
Sean
Rams
McVay's
put
a
up 45 more
madman.
points. That's the last thing I'll say. Remember the Bengals happened to play the Rams in a pretty important game a couple years ago. Since that game, the Rams have completely torn it down,
And
rebuilt,
rebuilt it.
and are better maybe than they were that year. They were a 10-17 that year. It wasn't like they were like these world beaters that Super Bowl year, right? And you
Zoom
just
it
got,
in.
oh, they're watching. um, but you just can't, you can't write it. It's because guess what? They've drafted well. They've
That defense is
reinvested.
lights out.
They've held on to their picks, right? And you look at some of the defensive selections they made. Byron Young, right, was a third round pick. Brandon Fiskey's been unbelievable, second round pick. They nailed it last year with the defensive rookie of the year, Jared Verse. They've made great selections. And even
And
like picking Emmanuel Forbes up off the street and he's making plays.
they have Atlanta's first round pick this year, which might be a top 10 pick. They might
But
mess around, win
if
the
they hit
Super Bowl,
Downs,
and have a top 5 pick. Some teams, hey, some teams have it, some teams don't.
well,
Unfortunately, the
on
Cincinnati
that
Bengals
jolly note,
are in the don't.
when on that jolly note, that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Jungle Fever podcast. I'm Ethan Sargent. That's Aiden Crowley saying so long. Bengals at home against Baltimore next week. We will see how they fare. They might be eliminated by the time
Give
we
me the
next talk.
Ravens.
So, yeah, I'm taking the Ravens as well. I'm not picking this team. But yeah, that'll do it for this edition.